I'm Devon Wells. I'm a fifth generation tree fruit orchardist here in Hood River, Oregon, and also the current president of the Hood River County Farm Bureau.
And my name is Pepe Rivera, and I'm a second generation family from Mexico that arrived in the early 80s, and yeah, grew up in the Hood River Valley, Pine Grove area specifically, and I am an employee at Wells and Sons, the orchard manager and the warehouse manager.
So our main crop is pears, all types of pears. We have 8 different varieties of pears. We also grow apples, and we grow cherries and peaches and nectarines, all here on the farm. Pep and I met each other in first grade, both with the local Pine Grove Elementary School here together. And honestly, we were 6 years old when that happened, and we've been great friends ever since. So 42 years now. We've been good family friends.
For the record, he's older than me. So. Pine Grove has been a place that our entire family has called home, and growing up here has been great.
As one of the owners of the farm, I am mainly responsible for the business side of things and also the post-harvest. So anything after picking up fruit, like packing, cold storage operations, our fruit stand sales, and our sales here, the international sales that we have. That's kind of my realm. My cousin, Chris Wells, is the one that runs kind of the orchard operations, so the pre-harvest side of things. So that's my role here, is doing all the post-harvest operations and the business management.
And I'm lucky enough to have been hired by the Wells family. Devon reached out a few months back. We had a great conversation, and that led to a partnership here at Wells and Sons. And I feel like home, right? You've known someone for such a long time with a great relationship. It's just a great partnership. I think that's going to blossom into so many different things here on the farm and at the warehouse, and I'm excited. They brought me on to help them bridge some gaps within the warehouse and also the farm side. And I think, yeah, I think it's going to be a great relationship.
So right now, 2 different things are happening. One, in the field, we're doing pruning. So that's tree training pretty much. So we go out with our trees and we cut the growth off from last year, and we make sure the branches are in the right locations for what we want for this coming year and the year afterwards. Pruning actually affects the following year's crop, not necessarily this year's crop. So it's a very important part of our farming operation. And then in addition to that happening in the field, there's maintenance happening on houses and maintenance happening on our irrigation systems. And then here at the warehouse, we're packing our fruit. So we have a packing house and cold storage operation also. So we pack and store our fruit, and then we're also selling it and shipping it all over the world. So we have a lot going on during the winter after our harvest takes place.
And the effects that we see, even though technically we're at the end of the season, right? But we're beginning anew from the very beginning. The things that we do now impacts how we end the season at the end of the year. So even though we're at the very beginning stages of the new year, harvest-wise, we need to make the right decisions, the right steps, in order to make sure that what is produced out on the farm comes into the warehouse, and there's that symbiotic relationship that if things go well out there, things are going to go great in here.
And I think something to go back on that previous question you had about what we do here. Pep had mentioned that he started working here about 3 or 4 months ago. He has 18 years prior experience to that on a neighboring farm also. And so he's not new in agriculture, and so he's bringing some really cool and very intelligent background to farm labor management and productivity operations inside warehouses and cold storage operations. It's a really great responsibility he's taking on for us, and my cousin and I are putting a lot of trust in, and we're leaning on him a lot for that knowledge and that expertise that he has. Not just because he is our friend, but he also, because he grew up here, he knows our community, he knows the orchards, he knows the roads, he knows everything that's going on in our community. Actually, the family that his family grew up, the orchard that his family grew up on, and our family are like my best friends. It's super great. Actually, my mom is on vacation with her right now. So it's just a very close relationship and friends, and a lot of trust goes in that because we're laying a lot of responsibility on him for helping that production. And so even though it's after harvest and before the summer or springtime where you can see buds and blossoms on trees, there's a lot of stuff going into play right now to affect this fall's crops. So it's a pretty busy time of year.
We want all the dominoes to fall exactly where we want them to be, right? And so getting a head start on it, I think, is key, and it requires a lot of constant communication. And I think when you have a good team that communicates well, everything's gonna end up good.
Year-round employees, we have about 40, and then we swell up in the spring or in the summertime for our thinning crews to thin fruit off the trees, and then in our harvest is when we really swell up to about 140 people that work for us. So we'll have 140 down to 30 depending on the time of year. Currently, right now, we're probably employing around 60 because we have our packing house operations and our field operations going on. So it's a good sized employer, and we're all friends. I was telling you earlier about how a lot of these people downstairs I grew up with, or I went to school with them, or their parents have been working for us for 40 years, and it's a very much, besides it being a family-owned farm, it's a family-operated farm with lots of families that are here on the farm with us.
And you'll see that typically in the valley, but as you grow up, you always hear about orchardists, and maybe you'll hear some negative things that maybe society wants to tell you about the owner-employee relationship, right? But Hood River's kind of unique in that a lot of the growers, they take care of the people that work for them. And I think it's not more evident than here in our little town of Hood River. We have nothing, and I've got 6 brothers and sisters. We have nothing but good things to say about the majority of our orchardists here in the valley, because honestly, we wouldn't be in the positions that we are if it wasn't for the trust that they've instilled in our family.
I think a lot of people believe that farm employers are these rich guys that are just driving around their nice big trucks and go on vacations and don't really have any connection or communication with the farm employees. And I haven't met one of those yet, to be honest with you. I've done a lot of traveling all over the country, have done traveling around Oregon a lot, and everybody I've talked to knows their employees, loves their employees, hopes that they have good holidays and good vacations, and takes care of them, and knows their kids, their grandkids. And I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions, is that we are disconnected from a labor force that a lot of people think are all migrant, seasonal, transitional laborers. And honestly, here on our farm, and I think it's pretty common on farms across Oregon, there is migrant seasonal labor. We get that, and we get it here too. We understand that. We still care about them. They're human beings. They're employees. But a lot of our people that are here year round, they're not migrant seasonal labor force anymore. They are part of our community, and my kids go to school with their kids, and they coach my kids' football teams and basketball teams, and I coach them on their teams, and we're very, very much integrated together. Which I think is a misconception of what happens on farms in general, not just Hood River or Oregon, but on the country, on the United States in general.
I think that misconception sometimes even extends to the seasonal migrant workers, because even those seasonal migrant workers, they tend to go back to the exact same spot that they've been working at. And because of the many years of work that they've done for the orchardists get to know them, and they actually expect them to come the next year. Again, very symbiotic, right? they help them by giving them work, and they help the owner by providing the labor to do the work. Because this work out here, fortunately or unfortunately, is very manual, and the folks that come are willing to do it, and they like doing it because they can come back year after year.
And a lot of those seasonal folks that he was talking about, when they leave to either go up to Washington to do some more harvest up there, or they go down to California, or they go back to their homes in Mexico, whatever they do, a lot of times we keep their labor housing in their name for them. Like if they're using it in one of our cabins,
Sure.
we just know that, okay, lock the door up, and we'll make sure we take care of it for you. When they come back in the spring, that's when they go back to live, because we expect them to come back. So yeah, even though they are a seasonal labor force, we know them. Yeah. And there's a lot of guys that, after the first few years of me being here, it took me a while to realize, he leaves for 2 months in the wintertime. So he's here all the time. I didn't know he was even seasonal. Because they're part of our community. They're part of our family. They're part of our operation. We know them very well. We provide housing. We have 3 labor housing units that house multiple individuals, and those are actually licensed by the state, Oregon OSHA, and we get inspected. We meet the requirements, all those kind of things that we have to do for those housings. Then we also have an additional 25 or so homes on our properties. They're single-family homes. Those are more for our permanent employees. And they're here, their families live there, they're homes that we maintain, we pay the insurance on them. They don't pay rent, they don't pay anything except for their utilities that they have to pay on their own, because that's variable for every employee. So we provide them the housing there. We'll provide them with a vehicle to work when they're working. We'll actually provide them for a vehicle to use while they're working. If they end up using their personal vehicle, a lot of times we'll fill their tank up with fuel just to compensate them for the use of their vehicle if they have to. Which
I vividly remember where we stayed, where my parents, who still works for the same farmer, that was home, and you don't get that if it's maybe not. If you're paying for it, maybe having to move somewhere else. And living in Hood River, holy cow, the expense of living in Hood River, the value-added ability to be able to live on a farm and not have to worry about a rent every month, that is huge. And I think that if you asked around, you would get the exact same feeling. I know my parents did, for sure.
Yeah, it's more than the compensation value. It's more than the free house. It's more than the paycheck they get. It's about the care that farm owners and orchards put into their employees. Yeah. I always say the most valuable resource that we have on a farm is our employees. We've got 550 acres of trees and houses and cold storage facilities and warehouse. Yeah. The most important thing is our employees. If we don't have employees in this type of industry, we're nothing. Yeah. And so my family for 5 generations has done a good job of it, as I think most orchards in Hood River County. I tend to say a lot of agriculture in the state of Oregon has done a really good job of building that relationship with their employees, because that's the only way that symbiotic relationship can take place, and those kids become successful. Some of them come back to farm because they love farming so much. There's a lot of guys that are second generationers that are working for us right now, and we've asked them, "Are you sure you want to come back? I mean, don't you want to go finish school?" We just had a guy come back. He's working here for us now. That he just got done with mechanic school. And he wants to come back here and work because he enjoyed the farm life and working on the farm. There's nothing that says he couldn't go get a mechanic's job somewhere. There's plenty of people that have come back to our farm and said, "No, I like farming. I want to be a farmer." And so during the summers, we have 3 generations of employees of Wells's working for us. And what I count that as a huge win, because they call this their second home. They come up here in the summertime, and then they go back, and the kids go down there in the wintertime and visit them. And it really is a family relationship. This isn't just a family-owned farm. It's a family farm that we're all families on this farm. So we look forward to it. It's a cherished relationship, actually.
And what a great experience growing up too, because even though I came back to work in the industry, but my brothers and sisters didn't. But we all, at some point growing up, we worked on the farm. right? Picking blueberries or picking pears. And wow, I mean, I think about it now, and I think what a great life lesson that I was given, because the job isn't easy, and it teaches you a lot of things.
So our sales manager, Jorge, he came here probably when he was 13 or 14 years old. Actually started pruning. His dad and his mom have worked for us for years and years, decades. Jorge's been with us for 30 years, and he's now our sales manager. He's one of the probably most important managers that we have in our company. He sells all of our fruit, handles all of that operation. And he's the guy that came up here under hard situations, worked in the field, worked down here, drove lift truck for us, did everything possible to stay here for us. Now he's in one of our nicest houses, has a lot of pride in his house, makes it look very nice, takes care of the lawn. His kids are my kids' age. They all went to school together, Pep's kids' age. They all went to school together. We see each other in school events. And
Great
just
guy.
a great part of our community. And so that's just another example of how we've got a second generation person working for us.
And I bet you there's a lot of Jorge's in a lot of farms around here.
There's a lot of them. I mean, I think about the field managers that are at these different orchards around Hood River, just here on the east side of the valley. And I know most of them, and they've been with their farms for decades, and their kids work for their farms, and their parents used to work for the farm. And so it's pretty amazing.